What's going on, guys? So today we have a lot to talk about. We're going to be repotting two trees. One's a money tree, one's a rubber tree. Before we start on that, I just want to show off the snow. The snowfall today was like these big grains of kind of looked like perlite was falling out of the sky. Anyway, just want to show that. I love it when it snows. But yeah, this is the pot that I've been working on. So kind of last wooden bonsai video that I showed. I screwed up on two things. This is like a second version of that same color. Screwed up on two things. One of them was where the pegs, or the legs, I had let the epoxy kind of pool at the bottom, and when I tried snapping them off, it took off a bunch of the stain as well. So I fixed that by just putting it over a drying rack. And the second biggest thing that I fixed was doing a better job at sanding. So I'm implementing a new method called wet sanding, and I mean, the pot just turned out so smooth. I think I really got it down. The strokes look great. It looks like actual wood, and yeah, I'm just really proud of it. And I'm just gonna turn off the music real fast and show you guys. It sounds like wood. Yeah, so super cool. That'll sound much like wood when it's full of soil and bonsai soil in a plant. But yeah, today we're going to be repotting this plant. It's a dwarf rubber tree. It's really special to me. Someone very special gave it to me. And I picked it because the bark is red. And you'll see it when I kind of zoom in. And it matches really well. I think it's going to be a great little forest that I create. Second pot that I made was a beige one, but I kind of improved on the same things that I improved in the last pod, so the pegs don't have that epoxy snapped off. But the main thing is I made them smooth, and I really just made it, I put on like more strokes of the golden oak wood stain that I've been using, and I think it just gave it more kind of texture. And I went in the middle, kind of gave it some darker spots, and I just think it turned out great. Kind of sad that no one's going to see the inside, but whatever. It turned out great. I love all these pots. Glad there was a little bit of natural light today. It wasn't super cloudy. And the tree that we will be repotting into this one pot is what's called a money tree. I've had this tree since the summer. Been dying to get it out of its nursery pot, and yeah, just dying to start this tree on its journey of bonsai. Someone already started it for me, but can't wait to see how it turns out. Yeah, so you guys already know the drill. I'm going to be using this big bag of tiny roots, all-purpose soil. Again, if you haven't watched the older video, I like soil, bonsai soil, with some organic material. In this case, it's that those like pine bark chips that are added into the soil. It's like a slow-release fertilizer, basically, when the microorganisms like break that apart. So I start every new bonsai tree. In this case, it's a clump, so I'm going to try to make a forest by just kind of picking the face of not only the pot, but also the plant. Now, I've always wanted a dwarf rubber tree, in my opinion, and a lot of people are big fans of rubber trees. But rubber tree leaves, especially in the winter, they get really big. It doesn't really look like a bonsai. A dwarf rubber tree, I think, is a happy medium. These are probably the larger leaves that I'd kind of on the larger side of leaves that I can deal with and I can kind of consider a bonsai. So yeah, it's just nice. And I think the bark of this tree is just beautiful. Again, I mentioned it's kind of red. I don't know how it'll develop when it gets older. It'll probably turn a little bit more brown because these are really young. But yeah, so the drill is these meshes that I 3D printed are actually improved versions of the 3D meshes that I showed in that original wooden bonsai pot video that I posted. And I think I did just a slightly better job at modeling them, and they turned out really nice. They kind of look like bamboo, so it looks great. Now I just want to put that over the holes. So obviously my bonsai soil doesn't just come right out of those big drainage holes. And yeah, bonsai pots, good drainage is just so important. Potting soil is great, but it's easy to promote root rot, especially over the winter. So if you're in a colder place, it kind of stays dark, A lot of mold can grow, and eventually you can get root rot. So good draining soil is nice, and a good pot that has good drainage. These meshes are just going to keep that soil from dropping through the holes. And yeah, obviously I modeled them to fit perfectly, so that's nice. And then basically I'm just going to speed up this footage. There's really no point of going over it. I just simply take care of filling up the bonsai pot with good amount of soil kind of halfway through, and yeah, I start kind of working at the soil, these clumps, and trying to get as much potting soil detached from the roots. But because it's winter, right, typically what you'll want to do is you'll want to completely wash the roots away from any soil, but I'm kind of afraid because it's winter, these plants are so young. So what I want to do is I'm going to give them, just leave a little bit of potting soil around the roots so that they can really retain moisture and they don't dry out really quickly. That way I'll protect some of the aerial roots if they're growing. If any aerial roots are growing, I'll protect them that way. But also it's just to protect them during the winter. Over the summer, I'll probably repot these again and start pruning the roots and stuff. So here's a little close-up. I'm trying to show these plants were kind of planted really deep into soil. So they actually developed roots on typically what's considered the sides of the plant. So I'm going to try to keep those roots alive. I think they'll look great in the future. So I'll try to create a mound of soil around those roots and try to protect them. And I think a combination of keeping a little bit of potting soil around the root ball, and then also this next step that I haven't showed yet, I'm going to actually look for some moss to wrap around those aerial roots. I think these roots will develop well, and yeah, hopefully one of these days the roots just take over the entire pot. That's the goal. So here they are, they're looking great. I kind of did a good job at spacing them out, but again, it'll probably change as these plants develop. Maybe I'll give them their own individual pots, all three of them, or I'll keep them as a forest. But right now they're so young into it that I'm not really going to try super hard to, figure out their final position, because yeah, it's not their final position. They're going to change and develop, they're going to get bigger. But it'd be cool if they kind of stay the same length. That way it look kind of cool. But yeah, I'm really excited to see. I've always wanted a rubber tree as a bonsai. I think it's really like attention getting and exotic. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out. So this next step I'm going to speed up, but again, I mentioned that I wanted to protect any aerial roots that were growing on the sides, so I'm going to do that with some of this moss. I found it in my backyard. I kind of looked crazy today. I was like digging through snow at that old spot that I found some moss in my last video. But yeah, I did find it under the snow. I let it melt. It was frozen. But yeah, I just kind of wrapped the moss around the basis of the plant, and yeah, I'm gonna speed up this footage because really not that important. But it looks nice, right? I love moss because it complements the color, not too much brown, and it'll keep things moist, and I'll be able to, especially in the summer, kind of identify when I should water the plants or when they're drying out. So here's another shot of the plant. This is after I watered it. I didn't show that footage, but what I typically do with new bonsai soil, I let it soak in like a container, and I just recycle that water and keep pouring it over. Bonsai soil, especially the wood chips, are really dry, so we want to make sure that they get rehydrated well. So now we're going to work on that beige pot, the second pot that I worked on. And again, I'm just speeding up this footage. There's nothing new, and again, I try to make these videos as fast as possible, but they always end up taking a lot more than I wanted. Yeah, just gonna mess around with the meshes. What you see me peeling off 3D printing, that's called a brim, and that just helps with bed adhesion to the hot bed. If you don't know what any of that means, and I sound like a nerd, well, yeah, then don't worry about it. But yeah, it's just a 3D printing thing that I have to tear off. And yeah, I just kind of align it. I gently put some soil over it so I don't disturb the meshes where they move over the holes anymore. And yeah, now we're gonna start tackling the actual root ball. So this is where I start actually working on the root ball of a money tree, and I've never experienced something like this before. I've never had a money tree before, so I didn't know what to expect. And typically with the ginseng ficus, for example, the roots would have overtaken the whole nursery pot by now, especially after a whole summer of growth. But that wasn't the case. The roots were kind of small. Maybe it was the soil that this money tree was in. It was kind of more wood chips than actual potting soil. But yeah, they were just kind of shallow and they didn't look very strong. So we'll see how this tree does with a repotting, especially in the winter. So I didn't even touch the roots. I left them all on because I really want them to survive. And I found this rubber band on the side keeping all the stems together, so I decided to cut that off. It did start leaving a mark, but I think this tree is so young that I'll have plenty of time to fix that up, especially if an aerial root grows up there. It'll definitely conceal that rubber band mark. And that's exactly what I do. I try to keep all the area roots intact, and I make a mound around them, and later you'll see I'll grab some moss and put that around the aerial roots. So here, nothing new. Sorry for all the sped up footage, but again, if I didn't speed up this footage, this video would be like 30 minutes long, so I'm not trying to do that to you guys. But yeah, there's nothing new. I'm just playing around, kind of placement. I was trying to figure out which side of the plant I wanted to be the face, and I just decided on this side. You can see that the bark seemed like it started getting some root rot. The bark just seems a little off. I'm not sure if it's root rot, but we'll see. Hopefully that kind of bark will darken up and it won't be as noticeable as it is right now. I know that it was under the soil and it was probably wet. Hopefully the dryness will kind of fix that up. But again, this plant is so young that I'm sure I'll have plenty of time to work on this. And it really looks great, to be honest. It already looks like one of the nicer plants that I have, so I'm super happy. Alright, so this is what I was talking about before. There's some roots that are growing right on top of that bark, or at least the surface level where the plant is. So I'm trying to keep those alive, and hopefully those roots eventually will thicken up and they'll kind of help conceal that kind of jagged edges of that bark in the bottom, and hopefully it'll just look a little bit natural, or even they'll create like roots that go over the surface, like surface radial roots, and look great one day. But the roots are growing really slowly. I'm surprised how little they grew over an entire summer, but it might just, if someone's grown a money tree, post a comment. Tell me your experience with it. Maybe I'm just overreacting, but I hope the tree looks nice. But here's the finished 2 trees. I'm super happy. I didn't want to make this video super long, not 20 minutes, but it's already kind of long. I'm just beyond happy at how well these plants turned out. I'm glad that I was able to fix my errors with the last bonsai pot. I was beating myself up because, I felt like they weren't perfect. But everything's an opportunity to learn. So every mistake, you just got to learn from it. And I think I really refined my method for making bonsai pots. And here, that money tree is so tall, I had to take a step back. The tree looks absolutely beautiful. I'm so happy that went into the beige pot. I think these colors really complement each other. And yeah, I just absolutely cannot wait to post updates on this tree and show you guys how well it's growing. So if you can see in the corner over there, a little sneak peek of all the trees that I've been trying to turn into bonsai. One of them is some peppers growing. So yeah, those videos will be coming up. And anyway, I just wanted to end it here. I want to thank everyone for watching my video, and as always, I'll see you guys later.